How was Worlds with T1? When did they ask you? They asked you, were you like, what?
So they asked me like a month before they qualified, so I knew for a while
Yeah.
that if they qualify, I will go. And then it ended up being really close to not qualify. And my season was basically over by the point they qualified.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I was kind of begging for it to like, please make it.
Yeah.
Because it's sad if they don't make it, my season is over and that's the goodbye. That's such a sad way to end
Yeah.
the time together. And then they made it, and the expectations were relatively low, but I just thought to myself the entire time, I'm here with T1. The expectations are never low. It's T1.
Mm.
Like we're going into this tournament to win, and you saw it right away. I noticed it in the first game. I think I told this story on Tolkien's stream when I was there. But when they were playing Tess, and they got some kills, like one of the fights early, or
Was this the Jakilov quadra kill game?
yeah, when he got like
On
the
the Jhin or
static
whatever?
shiv
Yeah.
early or whatever it was. Yeah, I was clapping, like I was so excited. Yeah, 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 and everyone was quiet in the room. It's just me, and I realized like, wow, the ambitions here are not not the ambitions I'm used to.
It's not the winning a game in group stage.
Nope.
It's like, this is just an expectation.
Yeah, everyone was just quiet. They win a fight, quiet. Lose a fight, quiet. And then I sort of like, as the tournament went on, got into the groove of, okay, we are here to win, like actually win. We're not here to be excited about a fight win at 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But I was sitting there, I remember in the first game, like, yeah,
And then everyone else was just like,
yeah.
it's 5 minutes into game one. Like, we've got another 4 weeks of this.
Yeah.
Oh my god. It must have been a crazy experience being around them, no? Like, was there like tension in the air?
I always thought they handled everything really well. So they lost their first game, and then they drew Pain, and of course that's a game they should win. But after that they had BLG, and in my mind we were such underdogs in that series. But they never like once gave me that feeling of like tension or nervousness or anything. Like a full day of proper preparation, good plan coming into it. I think this was one of the first times we saw Silas from Faker played Silas this game.
Yeah.
One of the first times we saw Silas, and they actually beat BLG, which was a huge upset at the time. Now looking back at the tournament, obviously it wasn't,
But
at the
yeah,
time it was
BLG were
crazy that
heavily favored.
they beat BLG. But the way they were behaving was giving me the feeling that it was not crazy at all. Like they, if anything, actually went into that game thinking we are the favorites. But I didn't like see it the same way in the beginning. I understand now, but it's just that like level of standard they hold themselves to.
Yeah.
I guess no matter how the season goes,
So they weren't
or where
like
they are.
nervous or like,
No.
they were just like,
Nope. They
Just gonna
just
win?
like, yeah, we're just gonna win, make a good plan. I think if anything, they actually thought even they did a good job in the first game. Maybe their plan was just not that good, but I didn't get the feeling after the first game that they were like angry or disappointed or anything. I think it was more like we had that game, we threw it, or the plan wasn't good. It's all right, we fix it for next time. Just a very high standard level of attitude, and no sense of like we're not here to win, we're just here to participate, or
you just had the feeling that they're here to win no matter what.
yeah, no one's angry or sad. It's just, yeah, we're T1, like we're gonna win this.
What were their like? Did you see some of their pre-game plans or anything? Like how they functioned as a team, like operationally?
I think the biggest thing I noticed was just how much they talk draft. So
Just non-stop draft talk.
of course in every team you talk draft, but the amount of time they talk draft was unusual for me, because it was like maybe a whole evening. Let's say scrims finish, they talk draft for like 4 or 5 hours, and then they go to bed, and then they wake up tomorrow morning, and then they talk draft again, and it would be so much of the players doing it. Normally in Europe, at least the teams I've been a part of and the coaches I've had, the coaches have taken up all the space. So if you're doing a review or if you're talking draft, it's the coaches doing it, and then the players get maybe a say somewhere.
Yeah.
And if there is something, it's gonna be like butting heads a little bit between the coaches and the players. But here it was just the 5 players doing it, and the coaches, of course, helping out and saying what they want. But it was like the opposite relationship, if that makes sense. Like the players in charge, coming up with the ideas, what they want to do, and then the coaches like facilitating
I see.
the room and the discussion.
So the players reviewed, spoke a lot, spoke draft a lot, and the
Yeah.
coaches were like just the foundation to glue it together a bit.
Yeah.
As much as
Maybe
they
if
had
something
input
is
as
missing
well.
out, or if they have a idea out of the box that maybe the players aren't thinking about, they'd like join in on it and like, hey, what do you guys think?
Yeah.
But it wasn't them leading the room. It was the players leading the room
I
always.
see. So it was less of, it's almost like you're in school and you have a teacher.
Yeah.
And instead of the teacher like telling you, it was
Yeah.
more like a group discussion.
Yeah.
And everyone had like a chime in and everyone was just talking and opinions flying
Yeah.
everywhere.
And maybe if it got quiet for a while, the teacher would say, "Hey guys, what do you think about this?" Like that.
Chad, stop saying I'm fired. Like, what is this? And that just carried on to the whole tournament. Like they just
Yeah, I was especially impressed with Carrier because I think he led a lot of the draft discussion and came up with a lot of the ideas of different picks they could go for, which makes sense if you think about it because Carrier is their X factor, right? He's the support player that doesn't play support. He's the support player that plays Carrier style, which can be anything from a carry to an enchanter to some hook champ. Like his Pike was crazy at his Worlds, you know. No one else played it. It's just him.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that he was the leading factor because he's also the one that is cooking in the draft.
So he's a chef. He's a little chef carrier.
But if you think about your own experiences in a team, and if I think about my own experiences in a team, the fact that a support, so not the coach, a support player is doing this, basically a coach's job, is crazy. It's unheard of in Europe. So it's just really impressive to see him like take the charge of, let's cook up a Renata draft. No one plays Renata, or a Pike draft. No one plays Pike. And everyone's on board with that, you know. He's like the guy.
That's interesting because I kind of saw that at Worlds 23 as well. I don't know if they can hear me. But I kind of saw that at Worlds 23 as well, where like you had a meta coming in for support specifically, and it was like engage support. It was like Nautilus, Leona, I think Rel, stuff like this. Rel, Flex, Jungle and shit like that. Oh, it's too loud. Sorry, chat. Oh my god. We heard you fine. This is the way to Denka mode, which just means like whoa. So if anyone ever spams that, it probably means your audio's cooked. Or wokage means like, oh my god, I'm awake. So sorry about that, chat. Yeah, and then he came into that tournament and started playing range sports, and everyone was like, is he gonna get away with this? Like, because Carrier was never in the regular season like the best engaged support player. He was still top 2, top 3, but there was like people like On and Delight who just mained it. Yeah. And their range supports are obviously going to be weaker than Carrier's. But Carrier just played his strength. And I guess maybe in that Worlds he was like, let me play my range supports. Like, just let me play Renata. And I think if you talk draft, like you said, that they do 5 hours of draft talk.
You figure it out, yeah.
It's almost like you enter a hole and then you just create branches. Yeah. And you just go down those branches until you stop and you're like, is it good? Maybe. Okay, let's go back. Yeah. Redo the branch. Is it good? Exactly. Maybe. And the more time you spend, the more branches you find, the more ready you are for like what they could pick. Because if they pick something, you're like, oh, we talked about that. Yeah. Boom. You have a counter for it. It's just complete theory crafting. Yeah. So they were just huge theory crafters.
Yeah, very much so, yeah. And so much of it was exactly that. Composition versus composition. Not so much like, is my lane good? I never really got that impression. Of course it's important, but I got much more the impression that the way they were structuring their drafts was more, is our comp versus their comp good? What are the weaknesses, the strengths, the points of attack maybe for enemy, and when we have to be careful, and when are we strong? For example, when they play these range supports, I often felt like if the game didn't get out of hand early, they were just going to win. So you could see them go for lane swaps and like try to like stabilize the game in the early game to not make it go crazy. Not so much roaming from the supports. He would go mid, for example, and really make sure mid is in a good state, slow it down. Yeah. And then all of a sudden the Renata is level 6 and that's it. They cannot engage anymore. If they engage onto the Renata, they just lose the fight. So it's just how do you get the Renata through the early game? And I feel like they always like made the draft so maybe some other point could be strong and make her survive the early game, or they'd like bait in enough picks for the Renata to become super OP. It's just a more complex, how would you say? It's a more complex way than just, I want to play Renata. Yeah. It's not that simple. It's like,
how do we get you?
How do we get to that point? So I understand why it takes such a long time, but of course it is worth it in the end if they can like find a way to win when they're not tournament favorites.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they did spend a lot of time on game stuff, but it sounds like the main thing, no matter what, after scrims was just draft.
Yeah. Draft was the big one.
Draft. So
still possible.
You were a group stage of T1, then you went to quarters. Was the stress ramping up around you think?
I actually felt like the longer the tournament went, the more sure I got that we were probably going to win this.
What point were you like, fuck, actually, we might actually just win this?
After Gen G.
Oh, yeah.
Before Gen G, it was scary, of course, because they hadn't beat Gen G for a really long time.
Yeah.
And even though Genji struggled in quarters, it's still 1 week between quarters and semis, so anything can happen during that time. But after Genji, I was like 95% sure we're gonna win this. I was actually surprised the finals was 5 games.
Really?
And actually on the day I was also surprised we won, because those games were tough. Like the 2 first ones, Guma died level 1.
Yeah, same strat, same place.
Yeah. So I was actually surprised we won on the day of the finals, but leading up to the finals I was like 95% sure we're gonna win. I thought Genji T1 was the finals. Now today I'm not sure. What do you think? Was it the finals? Genji
I mean,
T1?
BLG T1 was crazy. Like
It was a crazy series, yeah.
But I think like the mental block, I think against Genji is like, I can imagine there was a mental block. Like you didn't beat them for so long, maybe you're convinced that this is just going to be cooked.
Yeah.
Whereas they probably have less of a mental block versus BLG, and that's actually way bigger of a deal than most people might think.
Yeah.
If you go up against a team that's just clapped you for 2 years straight, you're just like,
yeah.
It's actually quite difficult to get over that, I think.
But
So I guess
T1 won the first game, right, against Genji, and lost the second. Am I mistaken?
I don't remember actually. Did they win the first game, Chad?
It was 1-0, 1-1, 2-1, 3-1, I think.
But was it like the BLG series in the group stage where they just came in thinking, yeah, we're gonna win?
In the finals, you mean?
And they're in the semis.
I think in the semis, everyone. That was maybe the only day where I felt like there was some nerves in the room.
Yeah.
But the first win really did a lot. I think if I remember correctly, I told Becker as well, like if we win the first game today, we probably win this series. But if we lose the first game today, it's going to be tough. Because as you say, that mental block is there. It's bothering you whether you like it or not. So let's say you lose the first game and you get smashed. Then I think that just takes over.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a tough series. But if you win, and all of a sudden that goes away and you're like, wait, we can actually win this, then it's much easier to play it out, regardless of how the second game goes. I think just getting that first game was so important.
Getting that hope.
But before the first game, I felt like there were some nerves, yeah.
What was the first... Remember how you said in the group stage, everyone was just like, you win a game or a fight, no one says like cheers.
Yeah.
When was like the first cheer? Was there like a moment in the room where you're like, oh shit, okay.
Maybe the Akali play.
The Akali play?
Do you remember? Faker Akali play?
Was that the one where they like had like 30 kills and all of T1 was mega fed?
Was that game 3 in that series, maybe? Or was that game 1? That's game 3,
Game 3, I think.
That was game 3, right?
Oh, Akali Jax game 3, yeah.
I think that was the first time it got like a little bit out of hand, you know. You could feel the emotions coming out.
Yeah. So game 3, the coaches started like sitting up a bit and being like, oh,
it was probably mostly me, but I could feel everyone like cheering a little bit for that play.
You were carrying them.
There was a big play. It was the grub fight, I think, in the third game.
Yeah, where he killed Jax.
Yeah.
And then he dove him on the fountain as well.
Yeah, that game, yeah, exactly.
That was a good dive.
And then of course when they actually won the last fight in game 4, that's probably like the biggest moment we had up until the finals, at least.
Like the whole room was just
hugs everywhere. Yeah,
everyone was losing it.
And it's not every day you get hugs from the Koreans, so special moment. They're not very huggy.
Yeah.
They like to do their touchings, but
and then that's it.
Yeah, no more hugs.
And the finals, were they nervous? Were you nervous? What was the vibes? All good?
Yeah, for finals was all good. But then once the game started and every game was tough in the beginning, I thought there's no way we were going to make it today. Yeah. And the guys somehow figured it out. Like, I'm not even sure how they won the second game. Because Guma died 2 games at the same place. And then somehow they won the second game in like 20 minutes. I don't know how that even happened.
What did they do in between games? Just draft?
Yeah, draft only.
Just sitting there 20 minutes.
Like maybe one thing they check in game, or like the coaches have something prepared, or there's some player that comes and like, I want to see this.
Yeah.
But it's very rarely like a review. It's just draft. So.
Damn.